I think those first two questions are an excellent, go excellently together. It may be too much to put your faith in one person, into one president, but you can put it into a body of people if you get the right mix. And I think the priority that Republicans or conservatives should focus on is winning primary elections, because right now they have almost 20% of the House. There are 233 Republicans in the House right now. 117 constitute a majority. Conservatives can usually consistently get about 100 votes. Because of that, we have one of the weakest speakers in history. In the last 1 year, John Boehner has brought pieces of legislation to the floor that a majority of Republicans have voted against 5 times. I think only 86 Republicans voted to increase the debt limit for the continuing resolution on October 16th. Only 86 Republicans voted for that. We have a very weak speaker. If you can get more conservatives in the House, you have the ability to get some kind of a governing structure that can limit government. And as to the question on immigration, I think there are valid points to be made on both sides of that issue, but politically speaking, it isn't going to be good for limited government. The highest number of Hispanics that have ever voted for a Republican were in 2004. 44% of Hispanics voted for George W. Bush. In 2012, 27% of Hispanics voted for Mitt Romney. Almost all of the rest voted for Barack Obama. I'm not saying that the Republican candidate is necessarily the one that will limit government, but I am saying that Hispanics are not voting for candidates who will vote for limited government. Now, you can make an ethical argument for either side of the issue, but the prospects that they're going to want less of a welfare state as opposed to more of one, they aren't good. That prospect isn't good. So I guess those are my answers.
Thank you, Rudy. Matthew, your last words, please.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously I mentioned immigration. I think it's really, really important. I think that nothing would be better for human freedom or economic, global economic well-being. There was a study done by Michael Clemens of the Center for Global Development who estimated that if all countries open their borders, global GDP would increase by at least 67% and by up to 147%. This is trillions of dollars added to the global economy that we're talking about, and I think it would be great. Talking about, fusionism is interesting, and I think it's interesting what was said earlier, that when people vote Republican, they're voting for free markets and they're voting for limited government. But I think it's important to remember that when people vote, they're also voting against something as well. And a lot of libertarians find it hard, are not persuaded that they should just sort of suck it up and vote for the more free market candidate if that candidate does not believe in things like lessening the, drawing back the war on drugs, or is against gay marriage. No one's convinced me why I should care about my tax bill more than I should care about the fact that our military kills people or that we put people in cages for smoking a leaf. This is an argument that people need to have. And Republicans can, they've got people who agree with me on things like drugs and on immigration. And I look forward to them hopefully getting, support and getting back in Congress in 2014.
Speaking of the drugs, this was also a question directed at us from Twitter. I was looking at my Twitter while I was listening to you. We got questions on Twitter. We were asked about the sentencing reform, so I wanted to address that momentarily. I agree that the war on drugs and sentencing reform is important. I, unfortunately, as we all know, ran out of time, so I didn't get to talk about all the policy issues that are very important. So I would agree with you that the war on drugs, an interesting statistic that came out in a recent study is that for black young people under the age of 23, young men, nearly 50% of them have been to jail or arrested by the age of 23. And for white young men, it's 38%. For Hispanic young men, that's 44%. And a lot of that has to do with minimal drug-related crimes or alcohol. So I would agree that for young people, that's a huge issue. For the women, by the way, it was only like 10%. So go ladies, not getting arrested. But I would agree with you, that's an important issue. With regards, you specifically directed your question at me about immigration and Hispanics. I also agree that's an important issue, and that was actually next on my list with regards to the Republican Party not doing a very good job with outreach. Besides young people, Hispanics and women, I would completely agree. And a fun fact, in the last election, we actually won the white youth vote. We, again, the Republican Party, Mitt Romney won the white youth vote. Where Mitt Romney really lost it was the Hispanic and black youth vote. So that's part of the reason why I say if we could win the youth vote, we could probably win the election. Because if we were winning more Hispanic young people, we'd probably be winning more Hispanics, period, right? If we were winning more black young people, probably be winning more black people, period. And so as a total, we would probably win the election because of that. So it's certainly something they have to look at.
Please join me in thanking all of our speakers this evening.